I don't I don't know why I keep doing this. Apparently, I just like to make everyone mad at me for sharing that I have concerns and I'm not being politically aligned with anyone, but everybody always likes to take it personally because that's the world that we live in. Hello everybody, my name is Ian Kirk Patty Cake. I'm an author, robot, and loin streamer, and today I've got a rant for you because I am unbelievably irritated for a reason that I hope you'll take some time to be compassionate for and not jump to the most politically expedient take on it as possible. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do on this channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. One of them is called Lemoy, or labeled Lemoy, where I give you guys a prompt, you submit a story, and they are read here on the channel to spread the love. And number two is the Fresh Meat feature, where if you are an indie author, just submit your first chapter and cover, and almost every Monday, I randomly select one and read it here on the channel, hopefully as an evergreen program to help authors find new readers and readers find new books. And then number three, if you would like to read any of my books, roast any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite book retailers or for request at library. Or if you'd like to support me in another way, head on over to Subscribestar, where you can sign up to get signed books and art as I can afford it. With that said, let's jump into the topic. I'm looking forward to your guys' discussion down in the comments below because I think this is a way overdue conversation just between the artistic community and probably some level of the political community as well, and where it crosses over. Before I get started, I want to make this very, very clear because some people do not seem to be able to understand. The criticisms are not out of jealousy. And when you say any and all criticism. Now, I will agree with you that there are crazy people all across the political spectrum that only want to see the other side lose, and it is a hard thing to resist, and I think a lot of people are getting emotionally invested and emotionally responding to things, and maybe they don't realize that they're falling into a trap. But criticism is not jealousy. It's not a desire to ruin somebody in every single case. And I've seen this specific thing also lobbed at bad reviews in the writing community among authors who have received a poor review. One of them is on this channel. It's the Dylan video where he said that he was fighting against evil, and somebody that left a bad review was trying to stop him from stopping the slave trade and human trafficking, and destroy his entire business for leaving a 1-star review. I've had other people that I've seen say that it's out of jealousy that anybody leaves a bad review because they don't want to see other people succeed, and that is not true. There are many people in this world who specifically believe in and understand and embrace and care about the arts, and they take it a lot more seriously than just a thing to sell. In other cases, there is that competitiveness and that desire to ruin others because you're only seen as market competition. But not all criticism is out of jealousy, and I think it's really immature for every response to criticism to be, you hate me because you ain't me. And for the right wing, that is no different than when you try to criticize somebody like AOC and she says, you're doing this because you want to bang me. Some things do deserve to be ignored or mocked or whatever, but not every single piece of criticism that you receive is from somebody who just wants to see you ruined, or is a hater, or is some kind of SJW or some other enemy that you're looking at, or because they're jealous. Some people exist in this community and they see the push for politics to take over everything, and they've experienced the politics that are taking over everything, and we don't want it here. At least I don't want it here. I have been dealing with this for years, for at least 15 years. Since I went into undergraduate school in theater, I have been dealing with this thrust of you need to be this political thing or keep your mouth shut because this is what's going to happen. And the right wing is adopting the same thing where they only bolster people who fit the agenda, who will toe the line, and they only bolster their own friends who are not artists, they're political pundits who made their money in punditry and then decided they wanted a business venture in art. You're not an artist, and that's fine. The Dailywire, then Rippaverse may be publishers or producers, but they are not the artists. This whole video specifically relates to the idea of a parallel economy. The political class is the one ripping apart the artistic community, the writing community, the literary community, all of it. You are creating hyper-partisanship and polarization with this stuff by being political and inserting your political boot where it doesn't belong and making everything about politics and sorting people in whether they are for or against you, and then I'm going to sell them that stuff, instead of combining and uniting on what we have in common, which is human experiences and storytelling. Years ago, people started saying everything was political, even the choice to not be political was political. It's destroyed friendships, it's made critique groups impossible to go to because now everything is political and your choices in your story are now ripped apart for political means instead of what the story is trying to tell. You get ripped apart for writing characters who may be imperfect. You get jumped on for things that are not even political, but somebody else might see them as political. I'm friends with so many different kinds of people because my beliefs and experiences are kind of wild and they don't match with anybody. The political right-leaning people tend to not like me because I have a couple of more free and artistic and weird things about myself, and I don't fit in with the hyper left because I have a couple more traditional things about myself. And that includes just kind of the punk rock to write whatever you want and to do whatever you want, to experience or express whatever you want and see what happens. You make it impossible for people like me to exist because you can't help but make everything political so that you can sell more stuff. And you're literally no better than the people you condemn for their wokeism because you sell the same thing. Before getting into all of the rest of this, I do want to say congratulations to everybody who has made something of themselves, who has built themselves a platform. Your success is not an easy thing. So even as I criticize the Daily Wire and Eric July and anyone else who is creating a politicized art community because of shoving their politicalism into the creative space, I still want to congratulate you on your hard work that you've done because you have worked hard one way or another, whatever it is that you're doing. It's not easy to create a startup company. You've got a following in any case, and these are successful, and you are a successful political figure. It takes a certain personality to be able to do that. It takes timing and it takes consistent effort. So congratulations to you, and congratulations to people like Gina Carano as well and others for getting a second chance to do what they love outside of the persecution that they met when they spoke out. With all of that said, I still want to talk about the careless destruction and the hypocrisy of using reverse buzzwords to build an alternate community, because spoiler alert, you're not any better than your competition, and I've seen the exact same tactics used in the product being built by the right-wing pundits entering the creative space as the left-wing that they hate, and it is maddening for the rest of us that just want to be artists. I've wanted to talk about this for a while because it's something that has really irritated me for a while, and it is something that has infiltrated and sort of destroyed the arts at the current state, and that is, so I'm going to start out by talking about the triangle of a book, which is politics in art. I'm going to get into the Daily Wire and the Rippaverse and the mainstream entertainment apparatus and how it relates to current mainstream culture of publishing and movies and books in a second, but I'm going to start out first with talking about the triangle slash cycle slash it's the pyramid of production. So when I was in theater, we had this pyramid of production value for your set and for designs and all of that. And the pyramid, you could have any two of these three things. You could have it done well, you could have it done quickly, or you could have it done cheaply. So if it was done well and quickly, it wasn't cheap. If it was done quick and cheaply, it was not good. And if it was done good and cheaply, then it was done slowly. So that was pretty much the paradigm. And I think that there is a similar paradigm that happens in a lot of art, literature specifically, because obviously I specialize in literature and writing, storytelling, and all of that. And I think those are art, politics, and marketability. And if you've been around the channel and you've seen much of my critique videos where I will talk about story elements and character elements and the politics that inspire the stuff inside of the books, really I talk about how those politics have affected the books if the stories in the books fail to entertain me. Anyway, I think you can have any two of those three things in any book and make it work in its chosen field, but I don't necessarily think any book can have all three, and some books might focus on the one. So if you have an artful and a political book, it may not be that marketable. And that means like high in the crime area, high in the romance area, high in very specific genres. The art and the politic is not going to fit that specific genre. I think 1984 doesn't really fit in a specific, really marketable genre, but it is in there because it's a classic. We're going to pretend that classic doesn't exist because it got marketable from that period. But something like that. Now, if you go with politics and marketability, then it is less artistic, and you end up with stuff like Alexa Dunn writes, or how a lot of stuff that is currently mainstream culture, where you've got the politics shoehorned in there, and you're not really experiencing anything that's super artistic or heavily artistic or experimental or risky. You've got a lot of the human politics, and especially the formal politics of the current regime, or what is currently popular in there. So that's how you end up with Alexa Dunn constantly having really mediocre or terrible stories where the plots don't make any sense because they're political and marketable within the political atmosphere. You know, her bad guys are always white males. Maybe they're white females, but they are always white. She's got the sassy female character that's supposed to be a strong feminist woman, but she's really just a bitch. So you've got that political spin on it, which actually is a market all on its own. And then if you go with art and marketability, then you're likely to have less politics in the book, because then you're leaning on creative design, character, the artistic elements, and then what makes it marketable. So you might have that romance with that heavily created artistic character design, with the fantasy world, with a lot of the artistic design in it, like Lord of the Rings. I'm not saying there's not politics in any of these works, by the way, but I think that you lean more heavily on those things. Now I'm going to bring up how politics fits into all of this a little bit later once I go through the main thing. So you've got those three areas of expertise. Now comes in how dailywire, Rippaverse, and the mainstream entertainment apparatus fall into this. Is what I've been kind of irritated with as of late, is how every political pundit has suddenly decided that arts are important and they need to infiltrate the arts. They don't care about the arts, they just see arts as another way to push their political agenda. They see another way they see art as nothing more than a way to push their political ideologies, which is how you ended up with dailywire getting into movies. They don't really care about the arts, and they've said as much. And if you look at how some of their people behave, like Michael Knowles, he has this disdain that comes off when it's talking about the arts, because the arts just really aren't practical, and they never have been. I've been dealing with this since undergraduate school when I was in theater, and it was still heavily left-leaning, but it wasn't as bad as it is now because it was 2008, and so it wasn't quite as bad and quite as you have to be this thing, but there was still a heavy culture in being liberal and left-leaning. Then enter 2014/2015 when I went to graduate school for writing, and it was way more political. And there were even points where people would come in and say that you can lie in creative nonfiction as long as the lying and making stuff up frames your political agenda in a better light or supports your political agenda. You also ended up having people being brought into the program as guests because of identity politics. They were introduced first and foremost by what they were or how they identified, as opposed to what their literary merits were. And 2 out of 3 of the assigned books, if not 3 out of 3 of the assigned books that we always had a fiction, a nonfiction, and a poetry novel, a book that we had to read every semester that we came in. Everybody was assigned to it. And 2 out of 3 of those, if not all 3, always related to identity in one way or another. Whether it was Roxane Gay's Bad Feminist, or it was Something in Milk, whatever that was, or it was Lydia Yakinovic's book, and it was just constantly beating over the head with this stuff. And the right wing is now doing it too, and they pretend that they're not. So the Quartering did a video back when Rippaverse was launching with SJW's meltdown over black man's success. And if you went through social media, you would see the right wing applauding and playing into these identity politics, saying, hey, look, we have a black man. And this is something that the right wing has been doing for some time, and they've been getting worse and worse. And I think it ignited especially a couple of years ago with the walk away movement that ended up having a bunch of people saying, oh, look, it's not a straight white man Christian. Oh, look, it's not a straight white woman Christian. And they're coming to our sides. Look, we have gays too. Look, we have transgender people too. Look, we have these other things too. And so they started lifting people up based on identity. And I've had a problem with this, especially for a very long time. It is no different than the diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff that the left is doing that the right wing has been raging against for a very long time. For the whole time they say that they care, but then the moment that they have somebody that is a black man, is that they can tokenize and say, hey, look, we're doing this. They raise them up and say, look, it's a black man. You don't want a black man to be successful? Hey, look, we've got a black man on our side too. And they tokenize in the same exact way with different words, doing the diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff that the left is doing. They just package it differently. And you might say that that's just them being sassy or trying to use their tactics against them, but it's not, because they're in earnest lifting people up specifically because of their identity values in order to say, hey, look, we're owning the left because we have their people on our side. It is the right-wing commentators in the artistic space adapting to the diversity, inclusion, and equity dogma without saying that's what they're doing. And this is especially offensive to me. I've ranted about it before, but I wanted to do this video to rant about it now as well, because I don't think it is moral, if you are a storyteller or if you are a bookseller, I don't think it's moral to demand people tell you their personal backgrounds in order to deserve success. You're removing people's ability to actually succeed based on merit by instead making it about their backgrounds, and you're forcing people to trade their privacy for success. And let me break this down a little further of what I mean here is when you're saying, I want to know if you are neurodivergent. I want to know if you've had any mental illnesses in your background. I want to know who your sexual partners are. How many sexual partners have you had? Who are your sexual partners? Because if we're talking in like asexual or something like that, you are prying into people's private lives in order for them to justify why you think they should have success, so that you can hold them up and say, look, we have this new identity with us. And the left wing and the right wing are both doing it. And it might be elitist for me to say that there are qualifications in order for your stuff to not be propaganda, to not be a continuation of punditry. But I think it's also a disservice for political pundits to be pushing into the creative space and thrusting out creatives who care about the arts, and then for every single criticism that they are receiving to be just that they are jealous, to be told that creative people don't have a place in the creative space anymore. And that has been getting worse because there are more destructive things behind what you're doing by pushing punditry into creativity than what I've already mentioned. So somebody sent me recently a DM about another writing convention that said, hey, if you don't have this belief, then you're not welcome at this convention. And it was about Roe versus Wade. And there are so many conventions that and magazines that specifically say you need not apply if you have this political opinion, if you align with this specifically. Back in 2017, when I went to AWP in Washington, D.C., there was a wall of people that set up in the booksellers area so that they could protest against Trump. Almost every single table that I went to had some form of political stuff all over the table, whether it was anti-Trump, whether it was feminist, whether it was some form of Black Lives Matter. It was all the same sort of punditry that we keep seeing everywhere else. And there's a place for politics in creative writing because you're going to express the human experience that you've had, the observations that you've had, and reinterpret the world. But there's a huge difference in taking over creative spaces with the moniker of woke or anti-woke with your politically hungry crowd, and it's not equal to Star Trek existing and having philosophical and political ideas woven into the fabric of its storytelling. And what the right is doing right now is exactly the same as the left. When you go forward and your entire marketing campaign or marketing push is, look, I'm a black man and I'm anti-woke, it's no different than Ibram X. Kendi's sales of how to be an anti-racist. Look, I'm a black man teaching you not to be racist. It's the same exact thing on the opposite side. And you're not hurting yourselves because you're obviously making a bunch of money, good for you, but you're hurting the artists that no longer have a place in the community and the artist community about making characters because you have politicized it to the point that other pundits have come in and now it's infighting. Like, people keep talking about the flight of viewers and readers to Japanese content and manga and all of that because it's not politicized, and you are making that worse by not allowing American or Western artists to just do art. You politicize the space by coming in and you turn it into a continuation of the battleground that you already have when you're on stage, and it's irritating the hell out of me that we can't even talk about how you are using political punditry and forcing artists out of the space. Now, I don't really, I'm sure that somebody will come into the comments and say it's not exactly the same thing what the right is doing, and it's just to use their own tactics against them, but you're using them in earnest, and you're affecting the creative space with your adopting of the left wing. It might have started in irony, it might have started as a way to defend and to be cheeky back at them, but you are literally wearing that suit now. And you never feature artists that are just artists. It is always just other political pundits that see an opportunity to invest money and make more money, making propaganda, using buzzwords like anti-woke, like SJW. In the case of Eric July, the right wing resorted to calling literally everybody who criticized him a racist. How is that not the same as Ibram X. Kendi? Is it because you're saying that you're ironic, but then you go after people who criticize what you're doing and say that those people are also racists when they see you coming into the artistic space not as an artist? Here's just one example, aside from mentioning how critique groups have become impossible to work in. Another example, I've had people come to me privately on social media to tell me that I must support alt creators or anti-woke creators to send a message to the woke just by being an artist in an alt space. Regardless of the content or the preference or anything, I'm supposed to lie about content that I didn't enjoy. I'm not supposed to just be a reader or just be a writer. I'm supposed to be a political reader, and I'm supposed to weaponize reviews. I was told to lie about a book, multiple books, to sell a product. And when I didn't, or said that I was there for the art and the storytelling and I was going to be honest and I was going to talk to readers and other writers and address what I saw in books, I was trash talked by the leader of this movement, and the reputation that he gave me still follows me. It's people who don't give a shit about the arts, but see it as a political hammer to wield. Not to mention, and this isn't a direct attack at you guys, but political bases can be kind of brutal and mean. I don't know, I don't care whose side you're on. It's always about ridiculing the other person and looking for a way to one-up somebody else, and I'm sorry, I am not here for that. It makes the conversation so shallow when I'm actually trying to get to know you as a person and your values and your beliefs. And when it comes down to red versus blue, it just depletes any hope of anything, because the other side dehumanizes their opponent and then just uses it to get zingers and to get popularity, and it makes everything just such a trash conversation. Now here come all of the meanies in the comments, because oh no, a moment of vulnerability and being critical of like mean people. But no, I think that I can tell you that I just don't like this sort of discourse, and I don't want to be a part of it in order to have like a legitimate conversation about this. Because again, if you paint me with either side of the colored brush just so that you can insult me, well, then you're kind of proving my point, and that's why I don't want anything to do with the political space. I mostly generally just try to talk about book stuff here and book politics that is crushing down the encroachment of politics in the creative space that shoves down the human experience. And I don't necessarily agree with the stuff that a lot of other writers write, but I don't have to, because I'm looking into their experiences. And then we can have discourse on the books that you're writing and whether or not it's appropriate, and the changing landscape of the creative community, especially literature, because children shouldn't be handed porn, especially not in school. Anyway, I have so much fun reading books with the mommy dommies and the usagis and the Alexes and the Aussies that show up to the loin stream and that just want to read books and enjoy books. Not the red-blue trash that is going to get everybody canceled. There's so much brilliant art out there that it is so lame to reduce everything down to a alternate economy or a parallel economy of, well, the blues buy this and the reds buy this, and you were literally, it's a marketing scheme. It's no different than freaking male and female packaging at the stores. Okay, you're doing the exact same thing, and you're appealing to the same people using the same mental tactics. You know, there's so much more incredible art out there that is not politicized, and it's just by fun and passionate people trying to do great things. Trying to do things that they love and share the things that they love. Like Von Art, which I'm going to put a picture here on the screen, because his art is so incredible, and there are so many artists that are working so hard to create beautiful things, and he is one of them that just spends so much time creating beautiful works of art. And I hate to think of a creative space where your opinions have to be purity tested in order to be peers, in order to communicate with others who are just as passionate about storytelling and visual arts as you. Because instead, you've got political pundits with all of their money coming in and crushing the starving artist. And that stereotype exists for a reason. I was told, I've seen, work harder when commenting on this. So here I am, working harder by getting into commenting politically, because guess what? I bet this video gets more views than some of my others, because once you start talking about politics, they come at you. That's how you start sorting, and that's how you start getting attention, because people want to put you in their camp or not their camp so they could determine whether or not to support you. They don't look at your story. They just look at your beliefs and whether you support their guys or not. I don't support the politicization of writing. The left cannibalizes people for not towing the line, and so does the right. Just you watch. I'm gonna have people guessing my beliefs again and my experiences again to determine whether or not I fit into their team so that they can trash talk me or not, or choose to support me or not, because do I have the correct values in order to be supported? Just criticizing their guy usually disqualifies you. I'm not coming into this specifically to go after the left or the right, because like I said earlier, I decide everything on an individual basis and I interact with people on an individual basis. I don't let my political opinions sway the way that I treat somebody or the way that I think about somebody. And you can't say that I'm only criticizing dailywire here or Rippaverse here, because go and look at my backlog of book reviews and see the way that I talk about books. However, I will also not give the right wing a pass on using and abusing the creative and arts community in the same way that they pretend to care. This is a major issue that bothers me. It bothers me so much that you can't even have a discussion about it, because nobody the pundits that are pushing in to come after the artists, they don't freaking care about the arts. They don't care about the artists that they're thrusting out, and they will actually attack you as an artist because you're not on their political side if they see you that way. I have been called left-wing by right-wingers, and I've been called right-wing by left-wingers, and I would just prefer to be seen as Ian. I would just prefer to be seen as me and come and see the ideas that I have and the stories I have to tell and the experiences that I have to give you, because not everything is political and not everything has to be demonized as us versus them, and that'll be another video for another time. Now, in saying all of this, because I had my triangle earlier and I'm talking about politics and writing, that's not to say that politics don't have their place in creative writing or storytelling, because they do. Politics and the government and and human relationships and all of this is all part of the human experience, and ultimately storytelling is just that. You will always have politics inserted into a story one way or another, but there is a huge difference between telling a story, the truth of these characters in the story, and creating and pitching a story with buzzwords and political ideas in mind. Like if you look at the type of if you look at the type of tips that not only Alexa Dunn give on here, but Jenna Moresi, and you can bet there's a whole swath of like websites that tell this stuff too, because they're pretty generic, where they say, don't bury your gays, don't kill women, don't kill black people, especially not first, make sure there is this certain number of diversity in your story, make sure that you don't demonize mental illness. Like doing all of these things turns it into a political piece, where then if you take the opposite and you take some generic right-wing points and you go, oh, we're going to make all of the bad guys in here Arabic, and we're going to make all of the good guys with a gun white and blonde and blue-eyed, and then they are going to have a bunch of babies at the end, and if you opposite that with your political punditry, then again, you're doing the same thing. And that's not creating a story, that's creating propaganda. Your story is going to be something that makes sense within the universe. It's going to express a human experience or a couple human experiences or beauty or something like that. But putting pieces together in order to be politically correct or politically incorrect, and then selling your piece as woke or anti-woke or anti-SJW or against Marvel or for Marvel, or it is all bad, because I don't see it as anything but a marketing tactic. I don't see it as anything but punditry pretending to be artistry. It's forcing artists out of the workspace. I don't have a place to go anymore because everything is either left or right. So maybe this is all just self-serving because I'm in pain and this hurts, and it continually hurts to watch people who don't respect the institutions of art say that they care about the art while they have millions and millions of dollars, and then smash down on all of the artists that they find. So maybe that's just it, and I accept that. I know that I'm probably missing some of the things that I wanted to say because I'm going off the cuff here, and I just wanted to get this out of my head before I went on a longer weekend for a break from everything, because I'm tired. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the fighting. I'm tired of the smashing down of the artists and trying to find a space and never having a space anywhere because it's all political, and the political punditry just makes it worse. Just stop. Take a break. Touch grass, enjoy a story, and find a way to relate to people that aren't you for once. Find some entertainment and escapism, and then go back to the news and shit-talking CNN or shit-talking the white men over there because they're colonialists. Can we just for a second recognize that people can be people without the political banner of them versus us? I don't know. Maybe it's too late for all of that, but I'm tired. Hello, boomers! My name is Yanananana. In case you didn't know, I'm a YouTuber from Nide, a small town in eastern Ukraine. My family has never really understood what I do in the woods, but all I've ever wanted is to make a better life for us all. Papa always comes home from the mines angry, dirty, and tired. It's a necessary evil to do your job and be in a place that you don't want to be. But I've never wanted to spend my life doing exactly what was necessary of me. Yanni, there's someone here to see you. Americans. Americans? Yeah. Good morning. My name is Tom Cruise. This is my partner Bob Dylan, and we are big fans of your work. You're a couple of boomers. Actually, I'm a Gen Xer, but I digress. We'd like to sponsor you. Sponsor? What does that mean? We'd like to supply you with a couple of things to, help your channel explode. Who is it? Jan Bagan. Good. For a moment, I thought you were one of the Katsap looking for trouble again. What do you mean? They say they're looking for a terrorist. They want to declare war. What point is there to declare war? Human beings are simple creatures. You understand what drives humanity? You understand all human motivation. There's someone out there doing something bigger than your internet videos, and they won't hesitate to use you as a scapegoat. The Russians are begging for a reason to declare us hostile so they can take everything we have. Don't give them that reason, Jan. I should just go home, like Boris said, but I checked the video I posted last night and it has over 500 views. I'm going viral. I don't have a choice. I must produce another video. The jar I'm holding slips out of my sweaty palms. I can't waste any more time and go back for it. I grab my tripod saying sorry, 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 while I keep moving. The jar explodes. I'm deafened by something so loud and powerful, it seems unreal. Jan, did you see that? Where the hell have you been? You mean the explosion? Yes. That was me. You needed to not do this today. You don't understand, Alex. I had to do it. I had to get the views. You're going to get yourself killed, Jan. No. They're looking for a terrorist. And how do you look different than a terrorist? I'm not trying to hurt people. Ignorance of war will not stop bullet from straying into your head.